Welcome to Active Love Adoptions podcast. I am your host, Jessica Griffith, and this is my bestie, Heidi, co-hosting with me. Thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to talk about adoption and as a birth mother, where and how it led me to adoption once I found out that I was pregnant. So we're just going to dive right in.
Jump right in here.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
Go ahead. Tell us. You take the pregnancy test with your friend that thought she was pregnant.
Who wasn't.
And you were.
Yeah.
And what happens from that point?
Well, I mean, of course, the first thought, I think anybody who gets pregnant when they're not planning on it, especially when you're 18, 19, 20, you're just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? So my first thought was, I'm going to get an abortion. Yep, that's what I'm doing. But then I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then from there, after I told my parents, my mom was the one who said, well, what about adoption? And of course, I think like most of us in this world, we know the word adoption. We know people who have either been adopted or have adopted. But I think that's where the buck stops. Like most people don't.
No, a birth mom.
No.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's like very removed. It's kind of like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You know what I mean? It's like everyone kind of knows a birth mom or something. And originally, my mom had said there was a family in our congregation at church that like their daughter had adopted 4 of their children. And she said, well, maybe they can take your baby. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about that, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in his life like that. Like, I feel like it would be too painful and I wouldn't be far enough removed from that. Yeah. So, my mom and my sister, because I'm like the idea person, right? In things. I'm creative and I'm the idea person, but it's hard for me to do the research. So they, is that you?
Well, I'm just lazy. So it's kind of like when you look at ratings, like, oh, this got 5 stars, this got 3. I'm like, do I really have to go through all of that and look down and read the reviews? My husband's like, yes, you do. I'm like,
well, you do, because I ordered something on Amazon one time. Remember the door thing, and my husband's like, it has a 1-star review. I'm like, who has time to read the review? Like, I don't have time. He's like, literally scroll down.
I just look at the pictures.
So yes, I'm like, if the pictures are really good, then I'm like, oh, it's super cute. Okay, I'm gonna order it.
Yeah, if it looks like it is really tight, and then I know I'm not gonna want it or something.
Exactly.
You know, like
although,
a size, but
ever since then, what do? I
read the reviews.
I know. It's annoying. Okay. My mom does the same thing with my dad. Will be like, read the instructions. She's like, why do I want to read? Like, can't someone just do it for me? But also, she's a very, like, for her, it's more like, if she's not interested in it, she's like, I'm not going to take the time to like learn about it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's kind of me.
So they just did the research with, and found the LDS Family Services. That's obviously when they were still doing adoptions and stuff, which they no longer are. But, but it was like really scary to fly out of state. And like, I remember they're like, okay, it's in Midville, Utah. I'm like, who lives in Midville? Like, what kind of name is Midville? I was just kind of like this bitter teen that was like, ugh, gross, Utah. And here I am, like a resident. Okay. I love it.
Okay, because you were in Utah, had a hard time when you went to school, went home to California, and then they sent you back.
I know. I'm like, this freaking Utah is like it's like sucking me back like a magnet. Like, girlfriend, you are not supposed to be anywhere else but Utah.
Where did you meet your husband?
Online.
Online,
yeah.
Okay.
So
it wasn't here.
It wasn't here.
Okay.
So but granted, I mean, we both know this. Utah County and Salt Lake County are very different places.
Yeah.
And Salt Lake County was more my vibe.
Yes, because of where you were from California.
Yeah, so it was more diverse.
It's more diverse, yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like, when I was in all the 17 colleges I went to in Utah County, because I went to BYU, UVU, then I went to beauty school there, but there wasn't a lot of diversity. I mean, at beauty school, of course, there was.
Yeah.
But everywhere else, there wasn't. And it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So once I moved up, like when I was in Midville, I was like, oh, yeah, like these Like, I feel more
That would have
like,
been the perfect place for you to go then.
yeah, I should have gone to like apply to the U or something
Salt
like
Lake
that,
Community
because Salt Lake
College. Yeah,
Community
you
College,
could
because
have
I
done
think
that.
that would have been better for me. But I mean, hindsight's 2020, so
Yeah.
whatever.
It went the way it was supposed to go.
Exactly. And I got a really awesome caseworker. His
Mhm.
name is, or what? Well, I have not spoken to him in over 20 years, but
Mhm.
John.
Mhm.
And yeah, he was good for me, because I've had a lot of bad experiences with like counselors and things like that. Like, they all bug me
Yeah.
because they're like, "How does it make you feel?" I'm like, "Why am I paying you? If I knew if I knew how to work through that."
Yeah. Well, yeah. How do you think you should, dude?
You're like, "I don't know."
My daughter goes and I come home and she'll come home. I'll ask her, how did it go? Well, I'm the one who takes her
Yeah.
and picks her up. There is that. And so I'm always like, I don't want to pry, but I want to make sure it was okay. And she's like, sometimes she'll get in the car and she's like, she frustrated me. She does not understand what I'm trying to say. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
She understands what you're trying to say, but she just doesn't agree with it.
True.
And you can argue as much as you want, but you're not going to be able to, if they're not going to see your side, they're not going to see your side. But
I also like counselors, and maybe this is just me because I'm stubborn and, whatever, but I like the counselors that will be like, "Why did you do that?"
yeah, call you out.
Like, that was really dumb.
Yeah.
But not saying you're dumb, but like, that was a really dumb choice. Like, why did you do
Why'd
that?
you make that decision?
And that to me was more self-reflective,
Yeah.
because I had to actually sit there and think, okay, well, like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I make that decision? Or why do I keep making, because
Yeah.
he would ask me, well, this one other therapist, not the one at LDS Family Services, but he had asked me one time, why do you think you keep dating like the same types of people?
Yeah.
And I was like,
You're just attracted to the same person.
and I kind of thought about it. I'm like, I didn't realize that I was like dating the same types of guys
Over and over.
over and over again. And I honestly, I think after some like self-reflection, I thought, I think it's because there was no future, and I knew it, because
And you're comfortable in that.
having a future scared me.
Okay.
And I had been hurt so many times, especially after getting pregnant, placing the baby, and just everything that happened with his birth father.
Yeah.
I was so traumatized without realizing I was so traumatized. So I kept dating these guys that there was no potential with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not okay with it, but I was okay with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which probably led me to date the alcoholic and date the guys who didn't want to commit, who date, like, even though that's continually hurt.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I'm not really getting hurt.
Not the hurt that you suffered from your son's biological father.
Yeah. It's, and I don't know if it's because I was so young with him and the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed.
You thought you were truly in love and he loved you back. And there's like a betrayal there, right?
It totally felt like that.
Right? It's like, wait a minute. I mean, because my daughter will question that. I go, you cannot get them to feel how you feel when you're in the situation.
Yeah.
And your feelings matter, but you're not going to make them feel the way you do.
Well,
and you can't understand this, what I mean to say, because you're not like that person, and
Well,
you
exactly.
would never do it.
Exactly. And two siblings can live in the same household, and parents can say the same thing and discipline them exactly the same, and they internalize it and interpret it
Totally
100% different,
Yes.
which can be frustrating as a parent. But
Well, totally.
and I think the one thing I've learned too is you can't make people do, feel, say what you want them to say or do. No matter how hard, no matter how, I remember with my son's birth father, I was like so desperate for him to love me.
Yeah.
And to want me.
Yeah.
So I was doing things.
You had low self-esteem.
Oh, 1,000%.
Or no self-esteem at this point.
But the things I was doing and jeopardizing, and I'm not going to go into detail
in
about
order
that,
to keep him in your life.
In order to keep him in my life, I look back and I think, why did I do that? That really that broke trust with my parents.
Mhm.
Like my parents who've always been very supportive, yes, disappointed, but supportive.
Yeah.
I'm doing things irrationally because I am grasping at straws. Like I just want him to want me.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was so painful that he didn't want me.
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand. I'm like, okay, so I mean,
You thought you had this certain type of relationship
yeah.
and that it was going to lead somewhere.
I mean, I was hoping that he would, I mean, without sounding like conceited, I was like, man, I'm a catch. Like I'm attractive. Like I'm a
You are.
decent looking person. And
Yeah.
like, I like to have fun, and I can also I can hold a great conversation with people. I'm smart. All these things that I thought like these are the things
Mhm.
that anybody would want in a relationship in their partner.
Yeah.
And
He just wasn't looking for a partner though.
no. And honestly, like, I don't think he's ever wanted to look like, I don't think marriage, not that we even got to that point, but I don't even think now. I mean, this is what, 21 years later,
Yeah.
he's still never been married. I don't think he ever wants to be married, which is fine. There are people who
Yeah.
that like is
Yeah.
not on
Well,
their
he-
list of things they
No,
want
and
to do.
he's had how many kids now?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's like 7. No, I'm legitimate.
No,
like 7
I know
that
because I think last time you said that there was quite a few.
like 6, not including Jacob, but 7 including him that I know of. And I mean,
Who knows? There
Yeah.
could be a
which,
lot more.
is like, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That was just his thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So your parents did the work for you, brought you to the agency, right?
Yep.
Reached out to the church.
Mhm.
And so what made them bring you here instead of staying in your state?
So I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe that there was an LDS Family Services in Santa Barbara. Like
Oh,
close
okay.
enough. I think the closest one might have been in LA, which was like a 2-hour drive.
Mhm.
So, and I would have weekly appointments there, and a 2-hour drive, that's,
Right,
and then
yeah.
they also had once a week, like birth mother support group for like an
Groups.
hour. So and I think part of it, my mom wanted me away from him because I think she knew that if I stayed there,
Mhm.
I would have tried the whole 9 months. As embarrassing as this is to say, I would have tried the whole 9 months to remain in contact
Yeah.
with him and like just try to get him to care,
Yeah.
which I don't think would have benefited anybody.
No, it wouldn't have.
So, and the California laws and Utah laws are different. I think honestly that was also a driving force
Mhm.
because deep down inside, I believe my mom was scared that if I stayed in California,
Mhm.
he wouldn't sign.
Yeah.
And I think at the time he had to in order for it to like be the rights relinquished,
Mhm.
which I'm a little confused on that too, though. Cause don't you have to, cause I know obviously Active Love does like
Yes.
different states.
Yes, we do. And so they have to be notified if they're named. If the birth
Okay.
father's named, then they have to be notified.
Okay.
And that can all happen before the birth of the baby.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait. And 2, published. We publish it. So we put it in the paper saying a baby was conceived about this time, child's due this time. If you think you're the father, then they have to petition the court.
So this would be like you'd put it in the California,
Yes.
wherever it was. So like in
Yes.
Santa Barbara, you
Wherever
put it in the Santa
child was
Barbara.
conceived.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know
Typically.
that that was one thing when I was in the hospital after I had Jacob, my caseworker came to just check in on me, and I had called his dad just to say like the baby had been born. Well, I think I had texted him and said, hey, I'm going into labor. And then I had called him after to say he had been born. And so I had put him on speakerphone because my caseworker said, I want to hear you tell him
Mhm.
the baby's been born you're the father, all that stuff. Because I had already told him that I told him this stuff, but he wanted to be a witness to it.
Yes.
And at that time,
Which
that
is
was
good.
enough.
So if something
Yeah.
if something came up, then it wouldn't just be he said, she said.
Exactly. So he was a witness to that. So he made sure it was on speakerphone and he could hear all the things and
That he said. Yeah.
which, yeah, I don't. It was weird though, because he was like super interested. The birth father was like super interested in like chatting on the phone to Jacob, like through the phone. I was like, what is happening right now?
To your counselor.
No.
Oh, he was chatting to the baby.
The baby.
Oh my
His
gosh.
birth dad was chatting with him. Like he wanted to talk. And even after when I went back to the agency and I was relinquishing rights, I was in the room alone with Jacob for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I had called Q and he was like, put me on speakerphone. And he was like, I want to say my goodbyes, which I thought was kind of interesting because
He didn't care the whole pregnancy.
no. But what was really tender was that as he's speaking to Jacob, just, I don't even remember what he said. I'm sobbing like a freaking mess.
Yeah.
And Jacob is cooing. And it's like he was talking back to him, which was just like, it just melted my heart. Cause I'm like, obviously, it's like Jacob knows.
Yeah.
On some cellular level,
Yeah.
right? Even if though he wasn't there with his birth father the whole 9 months. It's like,
Yeah.
it was a very special moment, even though I was like angry at the birth father. It was a very special
memory
yeah.
for you to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what I really want to talk about too is once you placed the baby and you selected the family, where do you go now? What do you do? What could help birth moms know what's to come and that they're not alone and that these emotions are normal? And what advice would you give them to help them maybe lay something out before they place the baby for adoption so they have stuff set up, knowing some of the stuff that will come up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing actually that I just dropped a birth mom off at the airport a couple days ago, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me, she's like, I think I'm really going to, I'm going to start the therapy that is offered. And I said, honestly, I think that's going to be the best thing that you can do right now. And she asked me, she's like, did you do therapy right after? And I said, no. And that was the biggest mistake that I could have made.
Yes.
Because now, 21 years later,
you're still dealing with it.
I'm still dealing with it. And I think some of the decisions from that, like in the last 21 years, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I think some of those stemmed from not addressing those things. And she said, yeah, there's a lot of things in my childhood that I have trauma from. And I said, so you need to work this part out so that when you're ready to work out that other trauma, this doesn't come out too.
Yeah.
And so I said, that is going to be, I said that. And then like, I wish I would have kind of known the feelings and the sadness and just like how gutted I was, that's all normal. Not that you don't feel like it's normal, but I have seen a lot of birth mothers, especially recently, posting about things saying, I'm so sad.
Yeah.
I'm gutted. I'm so devastated. I need my baby back.
Mm-hmm.
And you're allowed to feel grief.
Yeah.
You are allowed to, when you place a baby, it is like a child has died.
Yes. Yeah.
So you need to process that.
You have to mourn like that.
Exactly. I'm like, and grieving and mourning over a death or a loss, it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
However, getting that baby back is also not going to fix
All the reasons why you placed the baby,
exactly.
right? All the problems that you had, what brought
So
you to that
it
point.
will fill in this void or
Yeah.
fill in this problem and this grief, but then there's going to be other strains and grief and emotions that come with the reason or keeping the baby.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. And I don't know if anybody ever said that to me, that your grief is normal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the absence of this baby doesn't mean you should have this baby back.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds harsh, but you have to work through that. And I never worked through that. I got to be honest. I never worked through that. My mom just threw me like, you need to get a job. You need to be busy.
She tried you to get. Okay, so that's one of my biggest pet peeve is being so busy that you keep yourself busy because you can't sit with your thoughts.
Yes.
And because you don't want to deal.
Mm-hmm.
Those problems are never going to go away until you take the time to sit with them, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I have family that does the same thing, that keeps themselves preoccupied with a million different things and run. But until you take time to actually sit and look within yourself, you're not going to be able to move past it.
Well, I think that's the hardest part because it's so, with anything in life, right? It's so painful.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit in it.
No.
Like that's the
But
last
have
thing
to
you want
feel
to
it.
do.
Yeah, I know. You have to feel it to get through it, right?
But you can't you can't get to the other side of a mountain if you're not willing to climb the mountain.
No. Yeah.
I mean, God can part it, right?
Yeah,
God can
he
part
could.
mountains
Yeah,
and
yeah,
seas and all
yeah.
these things, but like you got to work, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You got to do the hard work. And I know, Mindy said this when we did the last one, where some of these girls, and maybe my mom felt this way or my sisters, it's like you want to do the work for them because you're like, it's so hard.
Yes.
It's so heavy. It's so lonely.
Yeah.
Because nobody tells you your healing is going to be lonely.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that sitting in your grief and really, really digging deep about why did you make this decision?
Keeping that in mind the whole time, the reason what brought you to that.
And really, like, I don't like New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
So when I pick a word, and this year my word is listen.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so the reason I picked listen is because I need to sit in my thoughts and listen to myself, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and just listen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in those, like, that solitude
and quiet
moments, you get the answers.
Yes.
The reprieve. Sometimes you sob. I mean, I was working out a couple weeks ago, right? And I'm on the bench, like the incline bench press. And I'm supposed to do like moderate, heavy max, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, women's upper body, we're known not to have a lot of strength. Even if you lift, like you're just never going to lift what a man can.
Yes. Yeah.
And my husband was behind me spotting me because I was afraid I was going to drop the bar on my face. And I'm like pushing with all my might. I just start sobbing.
Oh.
And he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
I am." But I think pushing, like, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so hard." Like I'm so angry because I hadn't worked through the anger I felt for whatever reason. And I'm just crying. And I'm like, but sometimes your body needs that.
Oh, it totally does.
And it shows up when you least expect it.
It totally does because you carry your baggage.
Yes.
I mean, people say that all the time, but it's true. And your body starts to shut down.
Yep.
And that's what happened in my case. And so I had to start working through my stuff, but it's a nightmare to try to work through the baggage you carry.
Well, because you're like, what do I pick up first?
Yeah, I know.
Where do you start? Of this, that, like, where do you start? Do I start here? Do I start here? Do I start here?
Well, see, and I have to say, because I believe in a God.
Yeah.
But in my case, I think he keeps giving it to me in intervals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have a memory of something and I'm like, shit, I don't want to remember that. But then I'll not have another one for a while and then I'll get hit with another one. So it's like he broke it up for me. But you still work through all that and you carry every little thing. And I'm like diabetic, high blood pressure, cholesterol, you name it. They say I have it. It's just a
You're the
joke.
poster child. If you looked in the
Yes,
dictionary, it's like,
neuropathy. I've got nerve problems. I mean, my body started shutting down.
yeah.
So I always say I'm the poster child of what not to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, take care of your shit, basically.
Yep.
You know, you need to take care of yourself and work through it so you don't have your body shut down.
Well, and I think so going back to the agency with my caseworker, the one thing that he did that I really loved to help me kind of work through, like, because I was never given like an option.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to adopt or do you want to like parent? I was never given that. It was,
you weren't?
No, but from my family. I shouldn't say my family, from specific people. And they were doing it. I just don't ever want to say anything badly because I know they were doing it out of love for me. It wasn't, weren't coming from a malicious place.
Yeah. No, because
they were helping me make the decision.
Yeah.
Even though I wished, I think I would have still made the same one, but I wish I would have been given.
You had more say-so in it.
Yes. So, but it was nice because the caseworker, so he pulls out his great big whiteboard. You know, every week we always had a whiteboard that he like drew on, like I was in kindergarten or something because I was not paying attention. But so he wrote up there, he wrote parent with the father, single parent, adoption. And he wrote pros and cons on each one of those things. He's like, do you want a parent with father? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, also he doesn't. So I don't think I should be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Well, because you knew it wouldn't work.
No, exactly. I knew it wouldn't work. I knew I'd be a single parent.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, but single parent, well, I can't do that either.
Yeah.
And maybe it would have been different if I was 25 instead of 18, but so I'm like, no. So it was really helpful that he was able to, I'm a very visual person and tangible.
Yeah.
So when he was writing these things down, and I think that's why I feel so confident with my decisions still, even though I have some maybe anger or resentment of how I got to that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
still
felt
the right choice.
I feel like he was able to break it down enough for me so that 21 years later, I can say I 100% made the right decision for me and for my child.
Yeah.
Because I gave him chances and opportunities that I would not have been able to give him. I was able to have chances and opportunities that I would not have had.
Yeah.
So that was really, and having a third party come in with that isn't, I mean, he was, what's the word I'm looking for? He wasn't like involved, but he was involved.
Yeah.
But he
was more there for you though.
But he also didn't know me and he didn't love me like my parents. You know, you have a skewed perspective when you love someone at a certain level.
Yeah.
Then when a third party comes in and
but
says
he still
something.
Cared for your well-being. And so that's where he came from as a place of well-being. And that's kind of what our social workers do too. It's like they're there to help you work through this and to be, for you to have a sounding board. And then our coordinators become that friend, the better friend if they spend a lot of time with them, like what you started doing.
And honestly, I just think the coordinators are such badasses. And I'm not saying that about me. I'm just saying
they loved. Yes.
are special people.
Yeah.
Like incredibly special people. I've been able to spend time with multiple other coordinators as they've kind of been training me and stuff like that. And I just keep thinking, and it's what's so fascinating to me is how each coordinator gets paired with the girl that's best, like they're best for each other. That's mind blowing that these girls come in, we know them, but we don't know them. And you get paired with these coordinators that are the perfect coordinator for this girl. They're what this girl needs.
Well, and I think the higher up tries to do that.
Yeah.
The person that's the case manager.
Yeah.
Who gets to talk to the birth moms before they come in and gets to know more about them. knows our coordinators, and then we'll send them to that.
Who they think. Yeah.
Who they think they would be a better match with.
Well, and Lorraine, the social worker. So I'm going to read this, this quote that she sent to, or said to the last birth mom that came in. And because Mindy just said, this was amazing. And so she said, this could be the best love story ever written. It's not a secret, but it is sacred. You decide when to share your story.
Yeah.
And I think the part I love the most is that, like, this, it's not a secret. Like, the adoption, it's not a secret, but it is the most sacred thing and that I've ever experienced as a birth mom, as a coordinator, just as a person. It is so, and so then it makes me just, babies that are born it's so sacred.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I got the opportunity as a birth mom to be a part of something that's so special.
Yeah.
That nobody can take away from me.
Yeah.
And it's been it doesn't define who I am, but it has made me who I am.
Yeah.
And I would not change who I am in a heart. Like, I wouldn't change how anything happened, who I am as a person, any of the things that have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you change one thing, you change everything, though.
Yeah.
And what are you willing to give up at this point?
I mean,
you went back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that one thing. So I want to, let's be a stickler, but I want to.
Please be a stickler.
Well, no, because one of the things someone said to me, and it stuck with me, is like the first time that a birth mom got milk, but she didn't have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of things I want to give our birth moms kind of an idea. And two, you said that was really important for you to also have was a village.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you saying that you need your people.
Yes.
Because there'll be days that you need someone to basically force you out of bed.
Yep.
At times. Those are the kind of things I kind of want to give our birth moms. I want to let them know, so that they don't feel like they were going a million miles an hour and hit a brick wall when it happens. If we can give them some kind of idea that these things will happen, but this is how you can cope. Or this is how you can plan for when this happens.
Yeah. So when my milk came in, that's something that's going to happen. I mean, that's how our bodies are made. Mm-hmm. We are supposed to provide food for the babies. Nobody told me that. It's so funny. It's like, these things, but then when it happens, you're like, excuse me. Yeah. What's going on? Can we figure this out? So your milk is going to come in, and for the first, it's going to be painful because, as you're engorged, of course, it's just painful until there's that release. Mm-hmm. And so what they didn't tell me, I don't even remember who told me. It wasn't at the hospital, and I think once again, my mom had done some research. So like cold red cabbage leaves, I would put them on like basically my whole breast and just put them on, and I'd sit in the bathtub because what it does I don't know why, maybe we could ask somebody, but it breaks up the milk.
That's interesting.
And then it just I would just lactate. And then I would kind of like massage as it was coming in to break it up so it wouldn't get so hard. Mm-hmm. And I just allowed myself to just release the milk.
Yeah.
And that's a hard experience because you don't have a baby to feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the red cabbage leaves, it like somehow there's something in it that dries up the milk. And so that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to dry up the milk, and you're bound with you. When I was out of the shower or the bath, I would bind myself with ace bandages. Mm-hmm. I would still have the nursing pads on just because obviously leakage and stuff. But it went away. The milk went away. It's so long ago. I want to say like 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
Of just of constantly doing that because obviously, and this is another thing they didn't tell you. And I don't know if this was news. It was news to me, but don't have any stimulation of the nipple. because that's the babies. They stimulate the
Yes.
nipple because
And that's why you produce milk.
yes, because they're rooting for it, right?
Yeah.
And so that helps to stimulate the milk production and then come through the milk ducts.
makes
So which is
sense.
why they say to bind yourself.
So it doesn't get
there's
the
no
stimulating.
stimulation on the nipple, which I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
that also helped too, not having any stimulation. So that there wasn't like my body wasn't like, oh wait, no, she needs it.
Yeah.
But then going back and forth between the drying out and like getting confused. So knowing the stimulation, the red cabbage leaves, and then just like massaging to help kind of break that up. And the other thing is the people in your life. Like you want to have. So to be honest, I had like all of my friends that I went to high school with still lived at home. Like they were still like, they were going to college because obviously we had just graduated. We'd only been graduated like I think a year or something. So a lot of those people were still in my hometown. And so, but I kept my circle really close. Because I don't like to be vulnerable. The more people, it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, right?
Yeah.
Same with friends. And I'm not saying my high school friends were the pennies. That's not what I'm saying at all. But they also they were in a different stage of life, right?
Well,
like,
you had to grow up.
I had done this,
fast.
and then they were kind of, I did have one friend who was like a single parent and some other things that were going on, but and they were great just to, if I wanted to go out and like, oh, I just need to get my mind off something.
Yeah.
But I really tried to, my mom was a great support system. I think it's just really important to have those people, just a community. And it's not even like you have to have a community so you can sit and talk about what had just happened. Because a lot of times when I'm feeling sad about the adoption, or if I'm feeling depressed or anxious, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about why I'm feeling that way. And I'm not trying to avoid it, but sometimes just getting out of my head and out of my own thoughts is beneficial.
Yeah.
And sometimes people would say or do things that I'm like, oh, it would help me like answer a question that I'd maybe been having or something. And I can like internally work through that. I did participate in Institute, like through church. Like I went and I did a weekly scripture study, and that really helped because it gave me something, it grounded me. It kind of gave me the bigger picture and a bigger perspective, and in the grand scheme of things, that this was just part of my journey.
Yeah.
And so it helped understand it a little bit better. Yeah. But the people in my life is definitely, and that's what I've actually told all the birth moms that have come in. I said, you need to find people, whether it's your best friend, and some of the girls I've told, I'm like, you need to get rid of the people in your life right now. Yeah. Those are not your people. Yeah. And I call them party friends. Those are your friends who will be fun to party with and do things with, but they're not the people that are going to pick you up off the floor.
They don't really care, love you.
No, they're not going to be like, hey, don't, like, you're totally self-medicating. Like, stop drinking. Yeah. Stop smoking. Stop doing drugs. Like, those are the people who are going to be like, no, take another hit. Yeah. Take another shot with me. Like, let's work through this. Like, those are your party friends. And and the party friend analogy is a very big umbrella. It's not just a drugs and a drinking thing. It's the party friends are the people who are not going to come and crawl into bed with you when you're crying. Yeah. They're not the ones that are going to feel like they need to call you and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Are you okay? Those aren't your people. Yeah. And sometimes when you're healing from something like this, or just any type of anything, you need the people who are going to show up for you, make space for you, and be in it with you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, honestly, I think that's so important.
Yeah. What happens if, I know that we have a lot of birth moms that actually care for their family. Mm-hmm. And they go back home and think that they have to continue to do that. But don't you think it would be beneficial in those cases too, that they need to take the time to find some way to deal with this instead of being so busy And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just like brushing it off like nothing really happened.
I think you need counseling. I mean,
Counseling.
therapy.
So that's where we go back.
Yeah. Every
needs
line,
counseling.
every road leads back to counseling. And if you can find someone who you can talk to and they are a good sounding board, but also can give you some good advice, sure.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to pay for it. But nobody benefited from sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
Anything.
No, it just makes the pile get bigger.
Exactly. And I think we we are a product of a generation who swept things under the rug.
Yeah.
Who didn't talk about it.
Yeah, it's hush, hush.
Who says, just be busy.
Yeah.
Get up, get dressed, be busy, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And to be honest, truth be told, I am happier when I'm busier.
Yes. Yes. But at some point you have to take a minute to get through it.
Yeah. And I think like counseling. Counseling. I cannot advocate enough for counseling.
Yeah, to help you. Because they'll give you a whole bunch of different ways to cope, right? Like skills to teach.
Coping
skills.
I used to cope by eating.
Yeah.
And so when I changed that, I was like, what do I do now?
Really? I can't imagine you coped by eating.
Like,
as I look at myself.
Stop it.
But I think everybody
copes. Like, I think more people cope with that, especially if you don't drink or smoke or anything like that. Like you cope by eating.
Yeah.
When my house burned down, I coped by eating. When tragedy struck, I coped by eating. Like if I'm happy, I eat. If I'm sad, I eat. Like, so when I changed that, I was my friend called it the river of misery because you are forced to deal with your problems head on.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anything to cope with.
Yeah, you have no more coping.
You have no more coping skills. So,
well, is it really coping or is it just, it's not coping, but it's helping you?
Well, it's an unhealthy coping mechanism.
Yeah.
You're coping, but it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
And, so here's the thing. So I cope. One of my coping mechanisms. I shouldn't say that my only one. One of my coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms. Say that 10 times. Is going to the gym.
Yeah.
I have to go to the gym every single day.
Really?
Because I need those endorphins to help along with my antidepressants. Like I take antidepressants. I go to the gym. I should limit my caffeine intake, but I don't. But that's so the river of misery, you've got to figure out, okay, so if I'm not going to have this unhealthy, so like if I'm not going to eat anymore, not eat anymore, but if I'm not going to eat anymore, what is going to be my coping mechanism when I start in my river of misery?
You're going to replace it.
What am I going to replace it with? What healthy coping? And therapy can do that for you.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, if you're hanging out with people who are also coping, in unhealthy ways, you're not going to be able to find a healthy way to cope, like, because nobody knows what that is. So a therapist will be able to come in and say, look, these are the things that have worked. Are any of these things you're interested in? Or maybe just take up a new hobby.
Yeah.
Find out what you're interested in and focus on that. Every time you feel X, Y, and Z, like go on a walk. Yeah. Or if you have to change up so I drive by the same swig every time I go to work. And if I decide I didn't want to drink caffeine, I would have to find probably a different way to work for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's like a routine. It's a habit. It's a trigger.
Yeah.
And it fixes it.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. It puts a Band-Aid on it. So
that's what the eating is, a Band-Aid.
Yes. But any unhealthy coping, eating, Band-Aid, drugs, Band-Aid, drinking, Band-Aid, caffeine, Band-Aid.
Yeah. It's just basically to help you not deal with the problem.
Exactly. And what happens if you you look at a dam, right? What happens if one pebble, the coping, and then the next pebble, and the next, and all these years of coping of just kind of like filling in the holes instead of fixing it. Then all of a sudden one day it's just like the floodgates are going to open and you're going to lose your shit.
It's going to all fall down.
And it's going to all come apart and you're going to be like, what happened?
You're going to be flooded.
You're going to be standing there like, I don't totally know what just happened. But I also don't know how to deal with it. So I'm just going to what I do sometimes is if I can't deal, I just shut myself in my bedroom and I just like sleep, which that's not great either.
Yeah. That's a coping thing too. My husband's done
Yeah.
that.
Because when I get super depressed, I sleep because I'm like, I can
can't
sleep it off.
I can't. Well, and see, I don't have a hard time falling asleep, but I contribute that to my children
Well, and
because I had them so close, and so I literally didn't
sleep for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, okay. Well, when I'm really
And
anxious,
now I can't.
I wake up. Like I can't sleep. Like I woke up this morning at 6.
Mhm.
Yesterday I woke up at 6.
Is it because of all this, though? Probably.
I mean, it could have been. I don't know because it was, or it's a full moon. It was a full moon yesterday.
Can I tell you though?
What?
I watched a video.
Okay. Uh-oh. Are we going down the rabbit hole now?
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
I watched a video and it says that it's like spiritual warfare is going on. So, but everyone's complaining they're tired. But then when they go to bed, they can't sleep.
Yep.
And it's just, we're being worn down.
Yes. Well, because I
Right
think
now.
we're also being like thrown stuff at us all the time. It's like watching a fireworks show constantly. And so
Well,
our
it's
brains are
overload.
like, yes.
Yes.
So we're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And so you lay down.
Well, and
then you're
how do
like,
you cope with it? How do I handle it? How do you cope
I don't
with
know.
it? I think that we've been blessed living here
Yeah.
a lot of the times because we don't have the constant wars that happen and people growing up in that. And so now when stuff happens here, we're just like panic stricken. And what the hell do we do?
It's like the Californians when there's like a snowflake on the ground, they're like, "Arr!" And I say that because I'm from California and like the first snowfall, I remember cheer squad. There was like it snowed in the mountains. Okay. And so
Where
they
it's supposed to.
Well, exactly. So they all like went up to like see the snow and they got trapped up there.
Oh,
And so then my coach kicked them off the team for a minute. So like they couldn't perform at one of the regionals. And I'm like, you guys have never seen snow before? Like really?
yeah.
You couldn't have waited until after school?
Have they not seen snow before? I have to say though, driving here, going down the Provo way, coming around the mountain, it was so bad.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was a whiteout.
Well, I mean,
I couldn't see the cars behind me.
I would have started crying.
But see, that's all I've known.
See, and
I started driving here. So I originally though, I was born in California.
Okay.
Van Nuys.
Oh yeah.
To be precise.
Yeah.
But my parents moved us out when I was 4.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, we always would go back because we have family there. But I drove in the snow. I mean, my birthday's end of September, and back when I was learning how to drive, we literally got snow October on. It was like,
it's weird. It like hasn't snowed. It's weird. Today is the first day of snow. It's January.
So I say that Utah has bipolar weather.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it can't make its mind up.
No, I can't.
It's like because we get snow up until June.
I know. That's the thing. I'm like, it just started
In the
snowing. I'm like,
mountains.
we're gonna freaking have snow till like
Right?
like until August.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be like we're gonna have a month or like 5 minutes of fall, and then it's gonna be like, and it's Christmas again.
Yeah.
And it's winter again. Wah, wah.
Yeah, we can't. That it won't. I'm like, the only time you really need snow is at Christmas, right?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if it snowed, honestly, the 1st of December
Yeah.
to even like the 3rd week of January, I'd be totally fine with that.
Yeah.
And then you can be done.
Yeah.
Then you can go ahead and leave,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see you back again.
But we just had like freezing weather. It was freezing.
But the air is gross too.
Yes, but that's why I don't like the freezing weather with no snow.
I know. But then when it snows, it gets a little warmer too, which I like.
Yeah.
And if I'm inside, I'm all about the snow. If I don't have to go anywhere,
'Cause
I'm
it's
100%
pretty.
all about the
Yeah.
snow.
So
But if
when
I
you
have to
to
go
drive in
somewhere,
it.
I'm like, no thanks.
I know I had to take my husband's car today.
Does he have 4-wheel drive?
He has a Subaru.
Oh, yeah. They're good in the snow.
I have a minivan.
Oh, yeah. I know. I have a Sequoia. That stuff is
Yeah,
built,
you're
built
good.
tough. Is that
Yeah,
the
you're
right? That's
good.
the wrong.
Yeah.
That's the wrong. Is that Toyota built tough or is that GMC? Who cares? Anyways. Well, hopefully we answered your questions.
Yeah, I think so.
Did
I'm
we?
sorry. I think we jumped everywhere
Well,
because of me.
But I also think that that's where the conversation went.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes
I
you
just-
can plan for something and
Yeah.
it just doesn't.
Yeah, I just threw something out at you. So, I want the birth moms to know, their feelings are all what they're going through is normal.
Yes.
And it's just a step-by-step process to get through it like you would have to cope with a loss.
Well,
or
I mean, and
death.
sometimes think about this. So when you're walking through the dark, right? Like to go to the bathroom or somebody in your home,
Mhm.
you trust that you'll eventually find the light switch, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
You're grieving, you're walking through the dark, and sometimes you got to just take one step forward.
Yeah.
Just take one
In
step
faith,
forward,
yeah.
and you keep moving towards that direction, and eventually you will find the light.
Yeah.
And grief, you can feel grief and be happy at the same time.
Yeah.
So just remember that's the most important thing. Like just take that first step, and each step is going to be a little easier. Each day, each month, each year is going to be a little bit easier, and you're not going to cry every day.
Yeah.
You'll maybe cry once a week, then you'll cry once a month, and a couple times a year, and the pain doesn't ever go away. There's nothing that can replace him.
Yeah.
But it will get better.
Yeah.
I promise you it will get better. If you do all these things to help yourself heal, it will get better.
Yeah. And you're not alone.
Oh, 100% you're not alone.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I love chatting with you.
I know.
Let's go do it again.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Active Love Adoptions podcast. And if you're pregnant or thinking about adoption, contact our office.
You can go to our website at www.activeloveadoptions.com.